Daniel Holt liked quiet nights. The mining outpost Aurora 9 was far from Earth, orbiting a lonely, rocky planet named Tryon. Most nights, the only sounds were the soft hum of the life support systems and the distant creak of metal from the cooling machinery. The miners were asleep, and the stars outside shone like cold diamonds. Daniel sat at his workstation in the control room, running a routine systems check. He was an engineer, not a soldier or an explorer. His job was simple: keep the outpost's power running, make sure the mining machines didn't break, and log the daily reports. It was supposed to be another uneventful night, until the pounding started. It was faint at first, just a muffled thud against the thick outer hull. Daniel almost ignored it, thinking it was a loose panel or a tool someone left outside. But then it came again, louder and faster. Thud, thud, thud. Daniel frowned. No one was supposed to be outside this late. The surface temperature was freezing, and the planet's winds could strip a man's breath away. He pulled up the external camera feed. At first, he saw nothing but the dark, rocky ground and drifting dust. Then movement, small, quick, desperate. A figure was standing at the outer airlock door, pounding on it with both hands. Daniel's eyes widened. The figure was short, maybe the height of a child, but it wasn't human. The camera feed showed smooth, shimmering green skin that glinted under the security lights. The creature had large, luminous eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the dark. Its clothes were torn, and frost clung to its shoulders. It was shivering. Daniel hesitated for only a moment before hitting the airlock control. The outer door slid open, and the figure stumbled inside. The moment the inner door sealed, Daniel rushed down the hall to meet the visitor. When he reached the airlock chamber, the small alien collapsed onto the floor. Her breathing was fast, shaky. Daniel knelt down, carefully checking to make sure she could breathe the station's air. She could, though her chest rose and fell quickly, like she'd been running for a long time. Her eyes darted up to meet his, wide and frightened. Her voice came out in broken English. "Please, human, help," she gasped. "My mom fell into your trap." Daniel froze. "My trap? What do you mean?" The alien girl's hands clutched at his sleeve. Her skin was cool to the touch. She looked no older than 12, if her species aged anything like humans. "She's caught," the girl said quickly, tears gathering in her eyes. "Down in the tunnels. There is a shining net. It burns. She cannot move. She will die." Daniel's mind raced. A shining net in the tunnels? Humans hadn't set any traps on Tryon, at least not recently. The only thing that came to mind were the old auto-defense fields left behind by the first survey teams decades ago. They were meant to keep out dangerous wildlife, but most of them had been shut down long ago. He stood quickly and offered her his hand. "All right, I'll help you. But you need to tell me exactly where she is." The girl nodded, wiping at her face. "I can show you. Please hurry." Daniel grabbed his tool belt, a portable scanner, and 2 thermal blankets from the supply room. The alien girl wrapped herself in one, still shivering. They moved quickly through the empty corridors, toward the outer access hatch. The girl walked beside him, glancing nervously over her shoulder every few seconds. "What's your name?" Daniel asked as they approached the suit locker. "Kira," she said softly. "My people live far from here. We do not come near humans, but my mother is a healer. She came to find a plant in the deep tunnels. She did not see the shining net." Daniel handed her a small breathing mask for the planet's harsh winds and helped her into a light environment suit. "Kira, when did this happen?" "This night," she said quickly. "I ran all the way here. I followed the lights from your home." Once they were both suited up, Daniel opened the hatch. The cold hit him instantly, a thin, sharp wind that hissed across the rocky ground. Above them, Trion's pale moon cast a ghostly light over the jagged landscape. Kira pointed toward a ridge in the distance. There! The tunnels are there! They moved quickly, their boots crunching over the frost-coated ground. Daniel's suit scanner beeped softly, marking their path back to the outpost in case visibility dropped. As they neared the ridge, Daniel saw the dark opening of a tunnel entrance. Faintly, he could hear a strange, low hum, like energy vibrating, through the air. "That's it," Kira whispered, fear in her voice. They stepped inside. The tunnel walls were rough stone, marked by old mining equipment. The hum grew louder, and soon Daniel saw it. A shimmering wall of light stretched across a side passage. It looked like a giant spiderweb made of blue fire, each strand pulsing, faintly. Behind the glowing threads, a taller figure struggled weakly. The alien woman, Kira's mother, was trapped in the center of the field. Her skin was a deeper green than Kira's, and her long hair floated slightly in the energy field. Every time she tried to move, the light flared, and she winced, in pain. Daniel's stomach tightened. He'd seen these before, old defense fields. They were powered by small fusion cells and designed to react to movement, making them almost impossible to escape once inside. "I'm here, Mom!" Kira called out, running forward. But Daniel grabbed her shoulder. "Don't touch it," he warned. "It could hurt you too." Kira looked up at him with wide, tearful eyes. "You can stop it, yes?" Daniel took a deep breath and stepped closer, scanning the field. "Maybe, but I need to find the control node." As he studied the glowing strands, a sound echoed from deeper in the tunnel, a soft scrape, then another. Daniel froze. The sound was getting closer. Kira's eyes went wide. "That's not from my people," she whispered. "Something else is here." Daniel looked into the shadows beyond the field and saw a shape moving. It was large, hunched, and completely silent except for the scrape of claws on stone. His heart began to pound. The mother was trapped, the girl was unprotected, and something dangerous was closing in. "Stay behind me," Daniel said, tightening, his grip on the tool in his hand. The shadow moved again, and then two pale eyes opened in the darkness. The pale eyes blinked in the darkness, unhurried, as if the creature had already decided this tunnel belonged to it. Daniel's scanner gave a faint warning tone. It detected movement, but the outline on the display was unclear, almost like the shape was flickering in and out of view. Kira wasn't wrong, Daniel thought. This thing isn't from her people, and it's not friendly. The creature took one slow step forward, its form still hidden by shadow. Daniel could make out the faint gleam of something curved, claws or maybe spines, catching the faint blue, light from the trap. Its slow, careful movement told him one thing. It was hunting. Kira clutched his sleeve. "It didn't follow me before. The sound, it began only after I called for my mother." That made sense. Predators often move toward distress sounds, even across species. "Kira," Daniel said quietly, "stay behind me. Keep your eyes on the light." The girl obeyed, glancing nervously at her trapped mother. The older alien still hung in the shimmering web, weak but conscious. Her eyes met Daniel's, silently pleading for him to act quickly. The hum of the trap field seemed louder now, like the tension in the air was feeding it. Daniel's engineer mind worked fast. He needed to free the mother without giving the predator an opening, but that wasn't going to be easy. The field's power source was likely buried in the tunnel wall nearby, and the moment he started cutting into it, the noise and light would draw the creature closer. The predator shifted again. For a split second, Daniel saw more of it. The faint outline of a narrow, long head, ridged along the top, and limbs that bent in an unnatural way. Then it faded again, almost blending with the stone. Camouflage, Daniel realized. No wonder it's hard to see. His tool belt felt suddenly too light. All he had was a plasma cutter, a short-range flare, and a small coil emitter used for emergency repairs. The plasma cutter could slice through the trap's node, but it could also make enough light to signal the predator like a dinner bell. The creature crept closer. The pale eyes didn't blink now. Daniel took a steadying breath. Kira, when I say run, you take your mother's arm and move. Understand? Her voice trembled. Yes, but what about... The rest of her words were drowned out as Daniel triggered the flare. A sudden burst of brilliant white light filled the tunnel, washing over the walls and forcing the predator into view. It let out a strange hiss, not loud, but sharp, like air escaping a pipe. Its body was lean, almost skeletal, with long, jointed limbs and clawed hands. The skin was mottled, shifting patterns of gray and black like living stone. It recoiled from the flare, retreating several steps. Daniel didn't waste a second. He dropped to one knee by the trap, running the scanner along the wall. There, a faint power reading just above the floor, hidden under a layer of stone. He set the plasma cutter to a narrow beam and began slicing. The smell of heated rock filled the air. Kira's mother winced again as the trap's strands flickered, reacting to the energy disturbance. Daniel worked quickly, his movements precise, years of maintenance work making his hands steady even. In danger. The predator hissed again. The flare's light was fading and it began creeping forward once more. Kira, Daniel said, keeping his voice calm. Talk to it. Make noise. Distract it. Her eyes widened in fear. Talk. To that. Do it, Daniel said firmly. Kira took a deep breath and began speaking in her own language, a series of rapid, melodic phrases. Her voice echoed oddly in the tunnel. The predator tilted its head, clearly curious, but still advancing slowly. The cutter finally broke through the outer layer of stone, revealing a small box-shaped device glowing faintly blue. Daniel yanked it free, pulled open a panel, and quickly disconnected 2 wires. The humming stopped. The trap flickered and vanished, the shimmering strands melting away like morning mist. Kira darted forward, throwing her arms around her mother. But the predator had stopped being curious. Now it crouched low, ready to spring. Daniel tossed the dead power cell to the far side of the tunnel. The clatter made the creature whip its head toward the sound, and in that brief moment, Daniel grabbed Kira's shoulder. Run! They bolted down the tunnel, Kira half carrying her weakened mother. Daniel stayed behind them, glancing over his shoulder. The predator was following, not fast enough to catch them instantly, but close enough that the sound of its claws scraping stone echoed in Daniel's ears. They reached the tunnel mouth, and the cold night air rushed in. Daniel knew predators sometimes disliked leaving their hunting grounds, but this one didn't seem to care. Its pale eyes glimmered in the darkness behind them. Daniel pulled the coil emitter from his belt, slammed it into the tunnel wall just above the entrance, and activated it. A crackle of blue sparks spread across the opening, forming a weak but visible electric barrier. Not enough to kill, but enough to make anything think twice before crossing. The predator stopped just inside the tunnel, watching them with unblinking eyes. Then it slowly backed away, melting into the shadows until it was gone. Daniel exhaled, hard, lowering the emitter. His hands were trembling now, though he tried to hide it. Kira's mother leaned heavily on her daughter, her voice soft but steady. You saved us, she said in her own language. She says thank you, Kira translated, her own voice still shaking. Daniel nodded. We're not safe yet. Let's get you both inside. They moved quickly back toward Aurora 9. The outposts. Warm lights were a welcome sight after the cold darkness of the tunnels. Once inside, Daniel helped them out of their suits and brought them to the small med bay. As he checked the mother's injuries, mostly mild burns and exhaustion, his mind kept replaying one detail: the trap. It had been active, fully powered. That meant it wasn't just some leftover from decades ago. Someone had turned it on again, Recently. And the power signature. Daniel had recognized it. It wasn't alien technology. It was human. The realization left a cold weight in his chest. If someone here had set that trap and lured Kira's mother into it, then the predator might not have been the only danger out there, and Daniel had a feeling he was about to find out exactly why. The medbay was quiet, except for the soft hum of the diagnostic scanner. Kira sat on a stool beside her mother's bed, holding her hand. The older alien's breathing was steadier now, but her eyes remained half-closed, as if the weight of exhaustion still pinned her down. Daniel stood near the counter, watching the readout. Minor burns, mild dehydration, and a small amount of nerve strain from the trap's energy field. Nothing life-threatening, but it would take days for her strength to fully return. "You both can stay here until she's better," Daniel said, softly. "This outpost has spare rooms." Kira gave a small nod. "Thank you, human." Daniel smiled faintly. "Call me Daniel." For a few moments, the room felt calm again. But in the back of Daniel's mind, the unanswered questions burned, hotter than ever. The trap in the tunnel hadn't turned itself on, and the power signal was too fresh to be old, which meant someone had done it, someone human. He didn't have to wonder long. His wrist communicator beeped with an incoming message. The voice on the other end was flat, official. "Engineer Holt, report to Level 2 Main Hall. Now." It was Dr. Morin's voice. Daniel glanced at Kira and her mother. "Stay here. Lock the door after I leave. Don't open it for anyone but me." Kira's eyes filled with worry. "Is it safe?" Daniel hesitated before answering. "It will be, if you stay quiet." Level 2's main hall was mostly empty when Daniel arrived. Only Dr. Morin was there, standing with his hands behind his back. The older man's sharp eyes studied Daniel the moment he entered. "I hear you were outside tonight," Morin said. Daniel kept his expression neutral. "Maintenance check." Morin tilted his head slightly. "You brought something, or someone, back with you, didn't you?" Daniel's pulse quickened, but he didn't show it. "Just equipment." "Why?" Morin stepped closer. "Don't insult my intelligence, Holt. I monitor the outpost's external sensors. I know you weren't alone." For a moment they stood. In silence, the air between them thick with unspoken tension. Daniel realized Morin already knew more than he was letting on. "What are you really doing here, Morin?" Daniel asked finally. "Why was that trap reactivated?" Morin's mouth twitched into a faint smile, but it wasn't a friendly one. "Sometimes, Holt, progress requires field testing, and rare specimens make for valuable research." Daniel felt his stomach turn. "You mean you use that trap as bait?" Morin's voice stayed calm, almost bored. "Not bait, an opportunity. We've been picking up unusual life signatures near the tunnels for weeks. And tonight, we got lucky." Daniel clenched his fists. "Lucky? That thing you call an opportunity nearly killed someone." Morin's eyes narrowed. "Be careful what you say, engineer. This is bigger than you. The people funding this outpost want results, not excuses." Daniel realized then that Morin wasn't acting alone. Whoever was paying him was far away, probably off-world, but powerful enough to control the outpost's operations without question. "Stay out of this," Morin said, his tone final. "You didn't see anything tonight, and if you did, you'll forget it." Daniel didn't answer. He turned and walked away, but the knot in his chest grew tighter with every step. When he returned to the medbay, Kira opened the door only after hearing his voice. She looked at him closely, as if she could tell something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "Nothing we can't handle, but we need to be careful." Kira's mother spoke then, her voice quiet but steady. "We are already hunted." Daniel frowned. "You mean the predator in the tunnels?" The older alien slowly shook her head. No, something else. The shining net. It was not there before. It was placed for me. Daniel's pulse quickened. You're saying someone wanted you caught? Yes, she said. My tribe does not come near human machines. We know their danger. But the healer's path, my path, leads to rare plants. Someone knew I would come. Kira's hands tightened on her mother's. But who? Before Daniel could answer, a faint alarm sounded from the hall. Not the outposts. Main alarm. This was quieter, lower, almost hidden. Daniel crossed to the console and checked the security feed. One of the side access hatches was opening, without authorization. The screen showed movement, not human. A shadow slipped inside, its outline distorted like heat waves on metal. Daniel's stomach sank. The predator. Only this time it wasn't. Alone. Behind it, moving with slow, careful steps, was another shape. Taller, slimmer, but walking upright. The heat distortion effect flickered just enough for Daniel to catch a glimpse of an armored figure. Not human armor, not from any mining crew. A third player had entered the game. Kira stepped beside him, her eyes wide. That is not from my people either. Daniel studied the image. The armored figure moved with purpose, not like a hunter searching for prey, more like someone tracking a target. The predator stayed slightly ahead of it, as if being driven forward. They're working together, Daniel said slowly. Or one is controlling the other. The realization was unsettling. If this armored stranger had control over the predator, then sending it into the tunnels earlier had been no accident. It might have been part of the same plan that put the trap there. Daniel switched the feed to another camera, tracking the intruders as they moved deeper into the outpost. They weren't heading toward the storage rooms or the control center. They were heading straight toward the med bay. Daniel turned quickly. We have to move. Now. Kira helped her mother to her feet. The older alien winced but didn't argue. Where? Kira asked. There's a maintenance shaft that runs to the far side of the outpost, Daniel said. We can use it to get you to the mining hangar. From there, maybe we can find a way off this rock. They slipped out into the hallway, moving, quickly but quietly. Daniel led them through the dimly lit corridors, listening for any sign of pursuit. The low hum of the ventilation system masked their footsteps, but it also hid other sounds, meaning the predator could be much closer than he thought. They reached the maintenance shaft, and Daniel pulled open the hatch. Go, go, he urged, helping Kira's mother inside first. Kira was about to follow when Daniel's wrist communicator beeped again. This time the message was short and chilling. You can't run forever, Holt. It was Morin's voice. Daniel's jaw tightened. Morin wasn't just a scientist with a bad idea. He was part of whatever larger operation had sent that armored figure. And now Daniel was standing in their way. He shut the hatch behind them and started crawling through the narrow shaft. They had escaped for now. But the outpost was no longer safe, and Daniel was beginning to realize something. They weren't just dealing with a trap, a predator, and a frightened alien girl. They were caught in the middle of a plan much bigger than any of them. A plan that might decide whether humans were seen as friends or as enemies among the stars. The narrow maintenance shaft echoed softly as Daniel crawled through the dark, cold tunnel. Behind him, Kira helped her mother move carefully, the older alien still weak but determined to escape. Daniel's mind raced with questions. Who was the armored stranger? Why had Dr. Morin sent it after them? What was the real reason for capturing Kira's mother? The shaft led to a small service room filled with pipes and wires. Daniel opened the hatch carefully and peered out. The hall was empty. They slipped into the corridor and moved fast, their footsteps soft on the metal floor. We have to get to the command center, Daniel said quietly. If I can access the security logs, maybe we can find out what Morin is hiding. Kira looked at him with hope. But will they catch us before that? We'll have to be faster. They hurried through the maze of hallways until they reached the command center. Daniel's heart beat fast as he swiped his access card and entered the code. The door clicked open. Inside, dozens of monitors showed views from all over the outpost. Mining sites, tunnels, hallways, the exterior. Daniel sat at the main console and began typing quickly. He pulled up the security logs from the past few days. His eyes scanned the entries. Then he found it. A message that made his blood run cold. At exactly 22:15 2 nights ago, a remote command had activated several defense systems deep in the tunnels, including the energy trap that caught Kira's mother. The command came from an encrypted terminal inside the outpost, but the terminal was registered under Dr. Morin's ID. Daniel looked up at Kira and her mother. Morin did this. He set the trap. Kira's mother nodded slowly. It is a test. They want to capture my people, to study our strength, our knowledge. Daniel's fingers flew across the keyboard. He found more data. Secret shipments of alien samples leaving the outpost. Reports about Kira's tribe's healing plants, and notes about possible weapon uses. This is worse than I thought, Daniel said grimly. They're using this outpost as a base for alien capture and research, without telling anyone else. Kira's eyes filled with tears. They want to take my mother and my people away, to use them. Daniel clenched his fists. Not if I can stop them. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. The command center's main door slid open with a hiss. Daniel spun around. 2 security officers entered, their weapons raised. Engineer Holt, one said. You are under arrest for unauthorized access. Daniel raised his hands slowly. Wait, I can explain. The officers ignored him, moving forward. Kira stepped protectively in front of her mother. Daniel's mind worked fast. He needed a plan, and quickly. Listen, Daniel said. Morin is behind this. He's capturing aliens for his own gain. If you arrest me, you're, helping him. The officers hesitated. We're following orders. Kira's mother spoke then, her voice calm but strong. Orders must be just. What you do now will decide the future. Daniel took a deep breath. Help us expose Morin. He's the real threat. One officer looked uncertain. The other stayed silent. Before they could decide, the armored figure appeared in the doorway, flanked by several drones. Morin stepped forward, his eyes cold. It's over, Holt. Daniel's heart pounded. The fight was not just for survival anymore. It was for trust between worlds. The command center felt colder than before, shadows stretching long under harsh lights. Daniel stood firm, holding Kira's mother close as she leaned weakly against him. Kira's small hand gripped his sleeve tightly, her eyes wide with fear. Doctor, Morin's armored figure and the drones blocked the door. Their mechanical whirring filled the room, drowning out even the steady hum of the outpost. You can't stop this, Morin said, voice calm but filled with threat. The specimens belong to science now. The powers funding this project demand results. Daniel swallowed his fear. You don't own anyone, he said quietly. You're wrong to use people as tools. Morin smiled coldly. Idealism doesn't pay the bills, Holt. The drones moved closer, their sensors glowing red. Daniel looked around quickly. There was no time to call for help. The security officers who had confronted him earlier had disappeared, and Morin's control was complete. He glanced at Kira. Stay close. I have a plan. Kira nodded, eyes shining with trust. Daniel reached into his tool belt and pulled out his plasma cutter. He flicked the safety switch on. The small blade hummed with energy. If he could distract the drones long enough, maybe, they could break free. With a sudden yell, Daniel slashed the plasma cutter across the floor, sparks flying. The drones paused, confused by the sudden movement and bright light. Run! Daniel shouted. Kira grabbed her mother's arm, and together they sprinted toward the side door Daniel had spotted earlier. Morin barked orders, and the drones pursued them. The hallways blurred as Daniel led the small group through narrow corridors and stairwells. The drones were fast, but Daniel knew the outpost well. They reached the maintenance shafts where Daniel had come from earlier. He pulled open a hatch and helped Kira and her mother inside. "Keep moving," he urged as he climbed down the tight tunnel. The drones stopped at the shaft's entrance, their sensors scanning. But the narrow opening was too small for them. Daniel pushed the hatch closed behind them. In the dim light of the shaft, the group paused to catch their breath. "We need to get to the mining hangar," Daniel said. "There's a ship there. Maybe we can use it to leave this place." Kira nodded, her face pale but determined. The crawl through the maintenance tunnels was long and tiring, but Daniel kept going. When they finally reached the hangar, the heavy doors were closed. Daniel rushed to the control panel and began working on the override. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed behind them. The predator from the tunnels had followed. It slipped silently into the hangar. Eyes glowing in the dark, Daniel grabbed a nearby flare gun and fired a bright shot. The predator hissed and retreated behind a crate, but it wasn't gone. "Stay calm," Daniel whispered. The hangar's emergency lights flickered on, bathing the area in red. Daniel found the control terminal and finished the override. With a loud hiss, the hangar doors began to open. Outside, the cold wind blew, but safety felt closer. Kira helped her mother into the ship's cabin. Daniel started the engines. As the door slid fully open, the predator lunged. Daniel slammed the door shut just in time. The engines roared and the ship lifted off. As they rose above the rocky surface, Daniel looked back. The outpost shrank beneath them, a place of danger and betrayal. Kira's mother reached out and took Daniel's hand. "Thank you," she said softly. "You saved our lives." Daniel smiled, feeling the weight of their trust. "We are not enemies," he said. "Not if we stand together."